Hey everybody, thanks for joining us again for episode number 2 of the Listen Like Thieves podcast. I was originally going to cover a different topic on this week's episode, but that original topic has now been moved to next week's episode number 3, as something has been nagging at me all week and I want to address it before we really dive into this thing. I have received a lot of feedback in the last weeks, almost all of it positive, but there is one mistake I've seen some people making, and I want to nip this in the bud. The mistake these people are making is that they seem to think that I am claiming that Michael Hutchence was murdered. This, despite the fact that, if you look back at everything I've written about this over the last 7 to 8 months, or 2 to 3 years, depending on how you measure, I've been very specific and intentional with my words, language, and phrasing. I do not claim Michael was murdered, and if I have, feel free to send to me where I did, and if you're right, I will admit my mistake and correct my misstatement. I do not claim Michael was murdered. I claim he might have been murdered, and that is a very important distinction. There are a large number of very suspicious and sketchy facts surrounding Michael's death, and these suspicious facts make it not only reasonable to question whether Michael might have been murdered, but they actually make it important, vital, and necessary to ask that question. If you were a police detective, and in light of these facts, you did not seriously look into the possibility of homicide in the case of Michael Hutchence, you would, in my opinion, open yourself up to the possibility of being guilty of dereliction of duty. Any right-minded person can see that. All you have to do is look at the facts. It is obvious, and any reasonable person would agree. But still, despite all that, it doesn't mean I'm saying that Michael was murdered. Just that it's a possibility, and a question that must seriously be considered. The reality when it comes to the death of Michael Hutchence is that there are 3 main possibilities and 1 absolute certainty. The 3 main possibilities are: 1, that Michael died of autoerotic asphyxiation; 2, that Michael died by his own hand of suicide; or 3, that Michael was murdered. Now, Michael's own brother, Rhett Hutchence, has stated for over 20 years since Michael's passing that the truth could be any of these 3 possibilities, that he has seen evidence and arguments for all 3, and that all of them are possible. The one thing we do know, however, with absolute certainty, is that after Michael's body was found, his financial manager, Colin Diamond, essentially disappeared, basically liquidated Michael's entire estate, and has more or less been living off Michael's fortune ever since. Michael's family has essentially received nothing. This, despite the fact that Michael had just redrafted his will in 1996, and it laid out very specifically what Michael wanted to happen, should something happen to him. And what it laid out was that essentially all of his money was supposed to go to his family, split into very specific proportions to very specific people. And we also know that Michael's estate was valued at $22 million in 1997. So the notion that there was nothing there, that the cupboard was bare is complete nonsense. I mentioned two aims in the last episode: truth and justice, but I only really expounded on the first. That's why I had the nagging feeling that I really needed to address the second one on this episode. Because whatever you believe really happened to Michael Hutchence, whichever of the three possibilities, autoerotica, suicide, or murder, wherever you land on that question, the one thing we can all agree on is that Michael's financial manager, Colin Diamond, for all intents and purposes, stole Michael's estate. That fact we can all agree on. And I think we can all agree that that by itself is a grave injustice. Whether Colin just took advantage of a situation, or whether it was premeditated and he had Michael taken out, in order to steal Michael's estate, Colin has no place retaining Michael's estate. And that money, that legacy, that fortune that Michael worked so hard for, that estate should have gone and should still go to Michael's family, per the very clearly stated intentions and desires laid out in Michael Hutchence's last will and testament. It is an injustice, it is a disservice, and frankly, I believe it is a crime what Colin Diamond has done. I believe it is a breach of fiduciary duty what Colin Diamond has done. And I think any fair, just, and right-minded court in any land, were they to look at the full entirety of the facts, in good faith and judgment, would come to the same conclusion. So that goal, justice for Michael and justice for his family, is my second aim, my second goal, my second purpose. I am absolutely certain that Colin Diamond is a cretin who has stolen Michael's estate and committed an injustice of the most grievous kind against not only Michael, but against his entire family, and against his fans, and against the whole world and the entire moral order of the universe. And I will not rest until Colin Diamond pays for what he has done. You hear that, Colin? It's over. You're done. Your lying, your deceit, your deviousness and manipulations, your time is up. It's time for you to pay for all the evil you have done. No matter where you are, no matter where you go, justice is coming for you. You won't be able to run. You won't be able to hide. Eventually, it will find you. And until then, we will be laser focused on you, Colin. All of Michael's fans are coming for you. Australia is coming for you. The world is coming for you, Colin. Until then, I'll see you next week for episode number 3. It will still be a good one.